Hello students, welcome to class 11th and this is your physics class. So what you are going to study in physics? First we will see that, then we learn some of the basics, then we will start this book. So let us first see what is in your physics book, because to understand something first you need to know what is there for you to learn. So from this year you will have two books of physics, part 1 and part 2. So first part, this is the first part book. So in first part, chapter 1 is about physical world. In that we will learn what is physics, scope and excitement of physics, physics, technology and society, fundamental forces in nature. So till here only a brief description of physics. See what is this and how can we apply it to society and technology, but real physics start from this place. Fundamental forces in nature, numeric nature of physical laws. So at this point physics starts. After that it is complete physics. Now chapter 2. Chapter 2 is more concerned about units and measurements. So you all know that you need some units to measure something, so it is more concerned about that. So introduction to the topic, international system of unit, SI units, that means measurement of length, mass, time. So these are the basic measurements. After that, accuracy, precision of instruments and errors in measurement. What are significant figures, that we will discuss. We are just going through the syllabus. What is your syllabus? Dimensions of physical quantity. What is this dimension, that we will see. Dimensional formula, because it is quite useful. Dimensional equations, dimensional analysis and its application. So this is in chapter 2. Again, the course of class 11 is very tough in comparison to class 9 or class 10th. Now motion in a straight line. You have learned something about motion in class 9, but it is far more than that. So what is that? Introduction to motion in a straight line, position, path length and displacement, average velocity and average speed, instantaneous velocity and speed, acceleration. Till this point you have learned, but after that kinematic equations for uniformly accelerated motion and relative velocity. These are some of the new concepts. After that the same concept is extended. So previously you are going only to learn about motion in a straight line, but now you are going to learn motion in a plane. So this is much more difficult, because now the things are in two dimensions. Previously only one line, that means one dimension. Now there is a plane. So things are now in two dimensions. So things would be much more difficult. Motion in a plane. So what is called motion in a plane? Introduction to that. Scalars and vectors quantity. You have learned something about it. Scalars and vector quantities, but in more detail. Multiplication of vectors by real numbers, addition and subtraction of vectors, graphical method, how do we add or subtract vectors, resolution of vector. So these are some of the new concepts. After that, vector addition, how do we add vectors, motion in a plane, motion in a plane with constant acceleration. When acceleration is already there, so how do things move in a plane, relative velocity in two dimensions, projectile motion and uniform circular motion. These are two very important topics which we will cover in this chapter. Now fifth chapter is laws of motion. So what are the laws of motion? Introduction to that. Aristotle fallacy, law of inertia, Newton's first law, second law and third law, that we will see in this chapter. After that, one very important topic is conservation of momentum. How do particles be in equilibrium, that means in a stable position. Equilibrium means a position which does not change with time. Common forces in mechanics. What are the common forces? then some circular motion, and solving some problems in mechanics. So this we will learn in chapter 5. After that, chapter 6. Chapter 6 is work, energy and power. So in this chapter we will learn what is called work according to the physics, how this work is related to the energy, and what is power. Power is simply energy consumed or energy generated per unit time or work done per unit time, but we will see much more than that. So introduction, notions of work and kinetic energy, that means work energy theorem, that how work and energy are related. Then we will learn about work, kinetic energy. So till now you know that there are two type of energy, kinetic and potential energy. So here we will learn about kinetic energy. Work done by a variable force. If force is varying with time, so what would be the work done? The work energy theorem for a variable force. Previously the work energy theorem for a constant force, now for a variable force, force that is changing with time. The concept of potential energy. After kinetic energy we will learn about potential energy. The conservation of mechanical energy, that we will also learn. The potential energy of a spring, so how potential energy is stored in a spring. Various forms of energy. The law of conservation of energy, that means energy can only be converted, neither created nor destroyed. Power, what is called power, and collisions. So these are the topics that would be covered in this chapter 6. Now chapter 7. Chapter 7 is little bit difficult because it is very different from previous chapters. In this chapter we will learn about system of particles and rotational motion. This is very complex chapter, I am telling you right now, so be very focused on this chapter. So introduction to this rotational motion, center of mass, we will learn about this. Motion of center of mass, how this center of mass is moving. Linear momentum of a system of particles. What is the linear momentum? Vector product of two vectors. Previously we learned about the product of a vector and a scalar. Here we will learn about vector product of two vectors. Angular velocity and its relation with linear velocity. Torque and angular momentum, these things are new to you, so we will see what are these things. Equilibrium of a body, that means a stable position that does not change with time. So moment of inertia, this is also a new term. So you know that when we have force, we have mass of a body, but when something is moving in rotational motion, instead of mass we use this term, moment of inertia. So this would be a new concept. Theorem of perpendicular and parallel axis. So these are the topics that would be covered in this chapter. Further we have few more topics. Kinematics of rotational motion about a fixed axis. Kinematics means how the things are changing with time. Dynamics of rotational motion about a fixed axis. Angular momentum in case of rotations about a fixed axis, and rolling motion. So these are the topics covered in this chapter. Last chapter of part 1 is gravitation. So first introduction to the gravitation, then Kepler's law, universal law of gravitation, that why everything in this universe is attracted to another thing. The gravitational constant, what is this and how can we use this? Acceleration due to gravity of earth, why something falls on earth. Acceleration due to gravity below and above the surface of earth. Till now we have seen the something falls on the surface of earth, but what happens if we try to find out gravity inside the surface of earth or above the surface of earth? What will happen to gravity? Potential energy, but this time now it is gravitational, that means potential energy due to gravity. Escape speed, if something wants to go out in space, this minimum speed needs to be maintained, which is called escape speed. Earth satellite, so we know there is one natural satellite which is moon of earth, but there are plenty of man-made satellites. Energy of an orbiting satellite, what is the energy of an orbiting satellite? And geostationary and polar satellites, what are these? and weightlessness in space. So these are the topic covered in this chapter 8. So this is all about part 1 of class 11 physics.